What's up, Jason?
What's going on, man? You ready to shoot?
Heck yeah, man. I got these mags all set up.
All right, first of all, metal mags we're not going at all. I'm just saying.
Polymer mags are fantastic, man.
These
I've been
have
using
been
them for 15 years.
These have been used for so long. GWAT days, let's go, man.
I mean, even the military uses polymer mags now. Like, polymer mags, metal mags, what's the difference? What do they actually use out there? Let's talk about it. Hi everybody, welcome back to Classic Firearms. I'm Matt, and today with me is
Jason. What's going on, guys?
And you know, the military isn't renowned for being quick adopters of new technology, even though they originate
of anything.
A lot of it, right? But one thing that we have seen is materials advancement and like the adoption of polymer magazines.
Yep.
So that kind of led to the question that we were asking ourselves, like, so when did the military adopt polymer mags? And how widespread of an adoption has it been? You know, because obviously we're still using rifles that at its base is from, you know, the early 1960s. Obviously, you know, Sig Spear coming along, but, you know, so when did they adopt this and they're trying something new? I think any conversation about polymer mags, we kind of have to go back to Magpul Industries.
Right,
I mean,
right. The originators, the OGs.
Premier name in the industry. And so Magpul was, you know, founded in 1999, but they actually introduced the first PMags in 2007. So that was the Gen 1 PMag. Gen 2 PMag came along in 2009. And we see that sometime, I couldn't get an exact when, the military started having an allowance for issuing of PMags because they were given a NSN number. So that's a national stock number, which is a number in kind of the logistical side of the U.S. government, allowing units to order these things. What was kind of interesting about that, though, is that there were certain problems present in some of the testing the military was doing officially, because of, you know, the differences between a standard STANAG style kind of magazine and the PMag, and so there were concerns over their durability under very cold conditions, as well as some feeding questions that they had, especially when we get into the M27 IAR. Now, important consideration is when we get to that weapons platform is that it's not based off of a standard M16 kind of receiver, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So in 2012, the U.S. Army TACOM, which is part of their logistical support, they actually issued like an open letter saying, hey, only official standard issue magazines are allowed to be used. And again, due to the fact that there was already an NSN number allowing units to have ordered these things, they were out in the field. A lot of people got very confused. Like, wait, we can't use the magazines that we're ordering through official government channels? So there seems to have been kind of a pause. Now, that was March. About 2 months later, in June of 2012, TACOM came out with kind of a clarification.
Bulletin.
It
was a bulletin.
It kind of reminds me of how the ATF issues clarifications that completely changed the last thing they said. Because despite saying originally that these were the only magazines that were allowed, their clarification was, oh, we didn't mean that you can only use those magazines, even though that's exactly what we said. What we mean is that we recommend for official, you know, combat and training purposes that you use these mags, but they are not banned from using, you know, if your unit had the PMags. So I find that was kind of interesting, but still, it's not an officially adopted thing. The military has this weird tendency to use things that aren't officially adopted by the military.
You know, like MP5s, MP7s, but yeah, we get it.
You know? Now, come around 2016, the U.S. Army actually adopts a new magazine, which is the EPM, the Enhanced Performance Magazine, which is basically just a little bit of an updated version of
Steel mag.
Exactly. So, you know, we're using the aluminum magazines. We go from the most noticeable feature it goes from kind of the green follower, which this has been used a lot, but you can hopefully kind of see that this is green, to the gray follower. But there's not a lot of difference in the magazine bodies that you would notice. They're both aluminum magazines. Interesting enough, the very next year, in January, the Marine Corps comes out and says, we're officially adopting Gen 3 PMags because the Gen 3 PMags have now solved the issue of any feeding issues in the IRR platform, so they are approved for M4, M16, and M27 issued rifles. and it's an officially adopted support item.
Sounds like a good choice to me. It's very durable, number one. So I mean, hey.
Now, Congress is interesting. Pretty quickly, by the end of that month, January, they've issued an inquiry to the U.S. Army. Hey, the Marine Corps has just adopted this. Why haven't you adopted it? Y'all have done extensive testing. There's been multiple rounds of testing. Why have you not adopted this when the Marine Corps has? And that seems to be a little bit of a misunderstanding from that first TACOM message. I mean, it's still an official government communication,
right?
And so I think it's kind of interesting that Congress is like, well, why don't you allow people to use it? They can use the magazines.
It's just not officially.
It's not officially adopted. Yeah.
So.
Now the Air Force then comes around a couple months later. We're talking around September now, and not only do they officially adopt this as a usable magazine, they adopt it to replace all other standard issue magazines, including the Enhanced Performance magazine developed by the Army. And what's really funny about this is that they're basing their decision on a 2015 test that the Army did.
Yeah. See how that works?
Yeah. So not only did the Air Force adopt this as a standard issue magazine, it is the standard issue magazine to replace all previous magazines.
One magazine to rule them all.
That's right. So I think that it's kind of interesting when you see the different branches. Obviously, we see the same thing with kind of weapon systems, right? The Air Force was actually the first branch of the military to like adopt the M16, and you know it's interesting when you see the different branches kind of getting technologies at different times, but they kind of all tend to move in the same direction.
Right.
You know? Now, I think that it's interesting because I still haven't seen anything that said that the U.S. Army has like officially adopted it. Now, they have stated they're still undergoing official tests. The units in the field are still able to order them for their units using their NSN number, but it's still not, as far as I could tell, officially an adopted magazine.
Slow rollers, man.
Now, I try to find some kind of anecdotal evidence because I thought it'd be interesting. Like, okay, well, what do people who are talking about their experience report about their use in the field?
Right.
And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting was, you know, obviously we've been party to conflicts pretty consistently since 2001, and that people would often say, hey, yeah, my first time going out to Afghanistan, I was issued nothing but aluminum mags. The second time I went out, it was all polymer mags.
Yeah.
And so there does tend to seem to be this shift to the polymer magazines being more and more widespread, even in branches in which it's not the only magazine.
Right.
What about you? I mean,
yeah. For instance, polymer GI mags, they've worked, they've been good, but they take a tumble to take a beating. Sometimes those feed lips actually get really beat up, and you have functional issues out of it. The reason why guys started moving to the P-Mags, number one, because you could take this, run over it with a Humvee or a truck, and it'd still take a licking and keep on going. So that to me is worth two in the bush versus anything, versus, you know, polymer being durable, expandable, the followers still work, and if this thing takes a spill on that feed lip, you pretty much cancel Christmas. So you got a jam malfunction creator. So
no, I think you know, one thing that's kind of maybe the opposite of what you'd expect is, you know, you see this as a metal mag, and granted, aluminum's not a super heavy metal, but you'd say this is metal, this is polymer, and coming from like a lot of AK worlds where we have a lot of steel mags, polymer mags are always so much lighter. And in reality, I think the aluminum mags technically are a little bit lighter.
Just a fraction, a skosh per se.
But again, since the Army has touted several times questions about the durability, specifically under like cold conditions, it's interesting because I've seen also anecdotes, like you said, where somebody's like, yeah, if this gets run over by even a light vehicle like a Jeep, it is pancake.
It's toast. Yeah.
Versus this, like, you throw it under it, whatever you want to. Like, you can use it to like change a tire and jack sand your car.
Absolutely.
and it's still gonna work. So, I mean, that's kind of where I found where we are today is you know, it's usable across branches.
Right.
It's the only option available. Talking again, sorry, about the PMags and specifically the Gen 3. Now, I believe the Marine Corps specifically allows for the FDE mag. I believe the Army allows for either.
They allow
color
for either.
mag.
And also, depending on what unit you're in, I mean, a lot of guys have their own things. The guys who run HK 416s, they love, or anybody who does primarily maritime stuff, they love specific maritime branded things. Like this FN mag here, along with the HK mags, those are ones that are not synonymous for being used in all type of saltwater interdictions, so just bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I didn't mean to imply that the Magpul was the only polymer mag that had been issued a NSN In fact, I believe Bravo company mags have an NSN. But it does make sense to a degree that, when you're allowing soldiers to go with something that's not what is currently your standard issue, that you do need to have some kind of quality control. You don't want someone going out and buying the absolute cheapest polymer mags because they think they're going to be lighter weight and stuff.
Correct.
And then you have, you're down a gun in the fight.
Right. And then you also do have the hybrids, right? Like this Lancer Systems one, which comes standard on the M7 or the XM7, what it used to be called, the new 6-spear. And it's got a good mixture of both polymer and metal. So, you get those metal feed lips, but you get that polymer durability on the mag. And I think that's a great viable option for going in the future as well.
Yeah.
So.
And that goes to show you, again, so the spear has been adopted officially as the new weapon system, although obviously not completely having replaced the AR platform as of yet. And so it's interesting that you see that the rifle they're going to is issued with a standard issue polymer mag.
Yeah.
So even without the adoption of, say, PMags, we're looking at a polymer future. Oh yeah, there we go.
You mean this big daddy right here?
Yeah.
I love that. Officially adopted now. So it's fielded, it's adopted. I love it. It feels great. Packs a lot of punch. I mean, what can you say about that, man?
Yeah. So, again, when we go back to the question of, adopting new technologies, a similar kind of issue with like handguns, right? So we went from the 911, an all steel frame pistol. When you look at like the M9, I believe that most of the frames of those are going to be an alloy.
Yeah.
And then now we move on to things that are adopted like the SIG.
P320.
And it's got a polymer.
It's got polymer. It's, first of all, I understand why they did it. It's completely robust. If something breaks, you can just swap out a part on it, and you don't have to replace the entire function of the gun. So I get that.
But
good vibes.
But a polymer framed pistol.
Correct.
So it makes you kind of wonder, like, what other parts of our kit that maybe right now you would hesitate or question the legitimateness of making out of polymer could be made out of polymers, especially as materials science continues to advance. AR-15s have been available for a while with polymer lowers, and I've always looked at that questioningly, but with the advancement of modern material sciences, maybe we'll get to a point where that's the standard.
It might be. Look at a scar, polymer lower.
Yeah. So, guys, again, this is a little bit of a history of just how widespread and when did polymer magazines get adopted by military service, the prevalence of that, and maybe kind of a glimpse into the changing technology in the military. Even when the platform doesn't change, there are elements of the weapon system that do change and get updated. And it's interesting to see where things will go in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited. The war economy continues, baby, so innovation always strikes.
All right. So guys, get down there in the comment section. If there was specific details about this that you would like more information of, or maybe you say, hey, I have additional information to provide you guys, I'd love to hear about it. Again, I think that unfortunately, a lot of information comes anecdotally, which means that it's hard to have verified timelines for things sometimes. But on the other hand, hearing the personal experience of people is always a super interesting way to learn new information. So make sure you get down in the comments. Also, if there's other elements of military technology, weapon system development, that kind of thing that you'd like to take a look at, that's some of the most fun videos that I think I've done talking about the developments of different technologies